with the new Fantastic Four film right around the corner, I thought this would be the perfect time to revisit the 4 films that came before it. I decided to rank the movies from best to worst, based on 4 different categories: the uniforms, the story, the villains, and most importantly, the team dynamic. Each category will be given a rating out of 5, with the 4 ratings combined to give the movie its score. With that out of the way, let's jump right into the video.
Look at you. The Fantastic Four.
Now, here's the thing.
Hey, what's going on?
And here's the thing you need to know about the Fantastic Four film from 1994. It was never officially released. The production was given a budget of $1 million, and all the cast and crew were fully committed to making the best movie that they could. However, unbeknownst to them, there was some chicanery going on behind the scenes, where a number of business deals were made, which ensured that the film would never be released.
I didn't know then, all of the machinery that had been at work, all the work that went into making that film, and that it was never going to see the light of day.
That the cast were given cease and desists to stop promoting the film, shelving it so that a deal could be made with 20th Century Fox for a big budget release. The behind the scenes of this movie are fascinating. If you're interested in learning more about them, I recommend watching the documentary Doomed.
So in other words, this movie was never meant to come out.
However, the focus of this video is on the actual film itself. Given its unique circumstances, certain things in the film almost need to be given a little bit of leeway. Many of Dr. Doom's speeches throughout the movie sound incredibly muffled, as they didn't record any ADR for the scenes, as the film entered its post-production limbo.
And you're running off like naughty little children. I just had to allow that.
Also, some of the special effects look pretty unfinished, even for 1994 standards, although the Human Torch getting stun-locked by the missile was pretty amusing to me. The movie starts off with Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom as college students, working together on an experiment. Reed and Victor's experiment goes wonky, leaving Victor to get fried to a crisp. Reed thinks Victor dies from this, but unbeknownst to him, Victor is saved by a couple of Latvian goons. There is then a 10-year time jump. When we catch up with Reed, he is trying to finish his project that he started all of those years ago, recruiting Ben, Sue, and Johnny to lead a mission into space.
Johnny and Susan go to outer space with us?
Well, I don't know, dear. You'll have to ask them.
Reed does question using 2 completely unqualified, just out of high school kids to serve as the backbone to his dangerous expedition into space.
Ben, this is crazy. What do they know about astrophysics?
But then Sue gives him a smile and suddenly, he has no more concerns. Now, the specifics don't really matter, but in order for Reed's experiment to work, he needs a big-ass diamond to absorb the cosmic rays or something. This is used to introduce the Mole Man subplot. Now apparently the Mole Man is an actual villain in the Fantastic Four canon, something I was entirely unaware of when watching the movie. I guess the studio didn't have the rights to the Mole Man name, and so in the movie he is called the Jeweler. But the instant he showed his mug on screen, and with me having no idea that the Mole Man was an actual character, my first thought was that this was the molliest Mole Man to ever appear on screen.
Mole, 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 mole.
I also happen to hate him and his freaky deaky little subplot. He sees the diamond and is like, I gots to have it, as he then proceeds to steal it and replace it with a fake. The Mole Man becomes enamored with a woman named Alicia and decides he wants her to be his mole queen. So he has his mole minions kidnap her and bring her to his lair. Because the Mole Man stole the real diamond, the Fantastic Four's expedition into space doesn't go so well, as they explode into 1,000,000 pieces. After exploding, they fall back to Earth and are not only alive, but completely unharmed.
We're fine? Come on, doesn't that bother anybody just a little?
They slowly start to manifest their powers, before being found by some soldiers who are actually Doom goons. We get perhaps the greatest fight scene ever put to film, before the gang disguises themselves as bananas to investigate where they are being held. They discover that Victor is alive, and now goes by the moniker Dr. Doom.
I didn't spend 6 years of evil medical school to be called Mr. Thank You Very Much.
Doom's plan is to suck the powers out of the Four and use them on himself to make him super powerful. If they refuse to turn themselves in, he vows to blow up New York City. But before he can do any of this, he first needs to collect the diamond from the Mole Man. This whole sequence is wacky, as the Mole Man threatens to kill Alicia if Doom doesn't leave him alone. Doom has never met Alicia, nor does he care about her in any way, and so he's just like, go ahead.
Please, don't let me stop.
That's when Ben arrives on the scene, and Alicia confesses her love for him. This encounter is the second time the two have met, the first being when Ben accidentally bumped into her and broke her sculpture. Alicia is a little quick to say I love you. It seems she'll say it to just about anyone, except the Mole Man, of course.
Keep me tied up here for the rest of my life, but I will never learn to be your queen.
Doom gets his diamond, and the Fantastic Four turn themselves in to save New York. However, they are able to escape Doom's clutches, fight off his goons, stop the missile, and deal with Doom himself. It's pretty funny, as when Doom is dangling off the edge of a cliff, he begs Reed to save him. When Reed goes to do just that, and is mid-saving Doom, Doom starts to make fun of Reed for saving his life.
You have not the courage to strike the final blow.
Unfortunately for Doom, his gloves were a little too loose, and he ends up falling to his death anyway. The movie ends with Reed and Sue getting married, and the best moment of the whole movie is when Reed's long wiggly arm waves goodbye. For the categories, I'm going to start with the uniforms. They are very simple blue spandex design with a big 4 in the middle. I like the color of blue used and the general vibe of the costumes. However, I feel like the quality isn't quite there, as well as Ben essentially wearing a giant diaper, and I'll have to give them a 2 out of 5.
You look
Like a dork.
The story was at times simplistic, and at times a bit nonsensical. To me, it felt like there was a lot of failings with the little things that made the overall experience subpar. For those reasons, I'm giving the story a 2. For villains, it's a little complicated. I did not care for the Mole Man at all, and if anything, his existence in the movie is a pretty big detractor for me. In terms of Doom, I like his background with Reed, and how there was an attempt to give him depth, and develop him throughout the movie. Even if those feel like the very basic fundamentals for adapting Doom. He is very theatrical throughout the movie, almost to the point where it's distracting, like when he keeps wiggling his fingers. He is also weirdly comedic, like when he sends his goons to fight the Four, leaves, and comes back only to see his goons defeated, and the Four have escaped. I will give the villain section a 2 out of 5, largely carried by Doom and in spite of the Mole Man. For the team dynamic, I have to admit that there's a certain charm to these characters and the way they interact with each other. Even though they act pretty odd at times, I definitely got the impression that they cared for each other. I think they were missing some nuance to their relationships and any interesting intra-group dynamics, but they did the very baseline of what they needed to do. For team dynamic, I'm giving them a 2, giving the 1994 Fantastic Four film a total of 8 out of a possible 20 points.
A new day is dawning. The day of the Fantastic Four.
I have a real soft spot for the 2005 Fantastic Four movie. Along with Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, it served as my introduction to these characters, and there's definitely some nostalgia associated with that. I feel like this movie does a good job at doing what it needs to in terms of introducing the Fantastic Four and their origin story, but it does it in such a fun way where you can't help but fall in love with the characters.
Am I crazy, or is this good? It's really good.
I love the casting for this movie, with Ioan Gruffudd as Reed Richards, really bringing alive Mr. Fantastic's unparalleled genius, but managing to give him an earnestness at the same time. Jessica Alba does a good job showing Sue's motherly instincts, but gives her a resilience when it's needed. Chris Evans as Johnny Storm is an absolute blast, oozing charisma every second he is on screen. And the heart of the movie is Michael Chiklis's performance as Ben Grimm, as he does a great job showing the tragedy of his character, as well as his indomitable spirit and his desire to help others. The late Julian McMahon is also captivating as Victor Von Doom, tapping into the character's cool, ruthless nature. I feel like casting these characters is so vital for the success of a Fantastic Four movie, as their on-screen chemistry will literally make or break the film, and in my opinion, they absolutely nailed it. The movie has a really fast pace to it, establishing the world and characters in very short order. The movie opens on a giant metal statue of Victor, communicating to the audience right away that Victor is a man with a huge ego and is incredibly self-important. Is it the most subtle thing in the world? No, absolutely not. But I think it works for this kind of movie. Reed and Ben have come to Victor to petition him for the use of his spaceship in his financial backing. Victor makes a joke about Reed stretching himself too thin, winking at the audience as he is sure they will get it later.
Same old Reed, always stretching, reaching for the stars.
Victor and Reed enter a Shark Tank style negotiation, where Victor is asking for 75% of all future profits from the project, in exchange for his resources. Reed takes the deal, and this interaction shows us what Reed and Victor value. For Reed, it is about the pursuit of knowledge, and all the good they can do for people with their findings.
Think about all the people we can help if this works, huh? Look, we got what we wanted, that's enough.
Where Victor is in pursuit of power in any form it presents itself, a great way to get straight to the core of who they are. The space sequence is great, each scene revealing to the audience more and more about who these people are, and their dynamic with one another. We get to see some of the Reed-Ben relationship, where Reed is the idea guy and Ben is the person who is looking out for Reed, the workhorse of the idea that has his boots on the ground while Reed's head is in the clouds.
He does the talking, I do the walking.
Johnny's intro is pure 2000s cheese, and it tastes so good, as he arrives on the scene riding a motorcycle while kissing a girl in a convertible. He is a flyboy, reckless, and in pursuit of all the pleasures life has to offer.
I need names and shots.
We get to learn that Reed and Sue used to date, and almost just as quickly we see why they didn't initially work out, as Reed is often too preoccupied with science to truly notice Sue and her needs.
Wow, fantastic. Material made from self-regulating unstable molecules.
Notice me, notice me, notice me. Notice me! Notice me! Notice me!
I wanted to highlight what I thought was a really funny and telling scene between Victor and Sue. Victor is about to propose to Sue, and he frames it as if he is giving her a promotion from girlfriend to wife.
It helps think of this as a promotion.
I feel like it shows an inhumanness to Victor, as his relationship with Sue feels more transactional than anything else. A tool he is using to get back at Reed. The scene where they get their powers is also genuinely exciting and tense. It does beg the question though, how were Reed's calculations so wrong in the first place?
It was a freak of nature. You couldn't have possibly predicted it. Let it go.
I'm just checking your math on that. Yes. I got the same thing.
The scenes where the team's powers are revealed is some shenanigans, a series of comic misunderstandings and goofy dialogue.
Look at me.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't?
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you, so are you.
Thanks, you're pretty good too!
And then we get to the thing of it all. When I picture the Thing, this is the version of the character I picture. I think the prosthetics that were used look really good and give the Thing not only a tangible feel, but also allows his humanity to shine through his still very human eyes. As I said earlier, Ben's story is at the heart of this movie, where Reed, Sue, and Johnny can go on and live normal lives. Every aspect of Ben's existence has been changed. The movie does a great job showing how so many small things that you don't even think about have been altered for Ben. He can't take the elevator. He can't sit on a stool. His fingers are too thick to use a telephone. His grip too strong to hold a glass. And he has to dress like Raphael from the Ninja Turtles.
What the heck was that? Looked like sort of a big turtle in a trench coat.
The most heartbreaking version of this is when he can't even pick up his wife's wedding ring laying right in front of him. Ben's anger, frustration, embarrassment, sadness, and confusion is all felt by the audience. When Ben tries to go home after his transformation, his reunion with his wife ends up being the worst case reaction from a Love is Blind meeting. His wife, whose name is Debbie, but I can't help but call Andrea, is forced to answer the question, would you still love me if I turned into a rock monster? Her answer is heartbreaking for Ben, and her timing is dramatic as hell. Really, Andrea? You came all this way to the bridge looking for Ben, where he just saved a bunch of people's lives, and is being cheered on by a crowd of people, and you decide now is the time to break up with him, without even having a conversation with him first. Speaking of the bridge, it is one of the movie's big set pieces and is pretty entertaining. It does, however, have some less than stellar moments. For starters, we all agree that Ben started this whole mess, right? He set off the chain of events that causes the massive pileup and the danger that it brings. The Fantastic Four are like, we saved the day! And it's like, yeah, but you're also the reason that the day needed saving in the first place. Also, it felt like this movie was looking for an excuse to get Jessica Alba to strip. So they came up with this idea where they can't get through the crowd, so Sue needs to go invisible to get by. But oh no, her clothes are still visible. Whatever will she do? Sue going invisible ends up being completely pointless anyway, as Reed and Johnny just run to the side a little and are able to get through no problem.
Still can't believe you made me do that.
We got through, didn't we?
With their newfound celebrity status, the gang hangs out at the Baxter building as Reed tries to understand their mutations. There is a really funny moment where Reed essentially calls Sue an emotional woman, completely oblivious to how he is coming across. It's made even better by how he is framed in the shot, making him look incredibly goofy.
You should be able to bend light around other objects, even people, if you could control your emotional state better.
Excuse me?
I also just wanted to highlight how I think the final confrontation with Doom is very well handled. It has the team working together, only being able to achieve victory because they each play their role perfectly. Ben's decision to embrace his transformation as a means of protecting the people he loves is a powerful moment, and Johnny outrunning the missile is one of the coolest scenes in the entire movie. As we move on to the categories, I think the uniforms used in the film are good, but definitely not great. They do have a certain sleekness to them, but they lack a bit of personality. I feel like the darker shade of blue, as well as the relatively small Fantastic Four logo, makes it seem like the movie is going for a more realistic, minimalist approach that was present in superhero movies during the early 2000s. I'm giving the uniforms in this movie a 3.
Yeah, it's sort of Armani meets astronaut.
I think they did a really good job with the story, as they had a good execution of a simple origin story. Ben's journey is front and center, and I think the movie is the better for it, as it gives the film some real pathos. It's not perfect, but it is a good story told in a really fun and entertaining way, leading me to give the story section a 4 out of 5. I think the Dr. Doom presented in this movie is pretty good. He does feel a little separate from the main plot for much of the movie's runtime, as he is dealing with boardroom meetings and coming to terms with his own altered anatomy. He has a pretty good dynamic with Reed and Sue, with the movie providing just enough to build some tension between them. He's also not quite as complex a character as you might like, his motivations being pretty standard villain stuff. Still, I think there is enough here to give the villain section a 3.
Do you really think fate turned us into gods so we could refuse these gifts?
The team dynamic is really great in this movie. By the end of the movie, they feel like a real family. Not only does it feel like the team itself is a united front, but each pair within the four has their own interesting dynamic. Reed's promise to Ben and devotion to fixing him really lends itself to the idea that these two would do anything for each other. Reed using himself as a test subject and turning himself into the Goo Man works because of their established relationship. The Reed and Sue relationship does a good job showing why they didn't work out before, and how the growth each of them has exhibited since will make this time different. Johnny and Ben have some great banter that on the surface might seem antagonistic, but deep down shows an appreciation for each other. The characters simply being on screen and interacting with each other is some of the best parts of the movie, and as a result, I'm giving the team dynamic a 5. This gives the 2005 Fantastic Four movie a total of 15 out of 20.
Everywhere the surfer goes, 8 days later, the planet dies.
The Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer is much of the same from its predecessor, but slightly worse. It feels like a more ambitious movie, ramping the stakes up so that the fate of the planet is on the line, introducing new characters and making it a truly globe-trotting affair. However, I feel like as a result, some of these big ideas make the movie feel slightly bloated. Some of the inclusions felt entirely unnecessary and can take the viewer out of the experience. There are still some really funny moments in here, like Reed's cringe dance moves. I seriously think he could go toe-to-toe with Bully Maguire.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Where Ben was the focal character in the previous movie, it's the Human Torch's turn to be front and center. I think they actually do a good job with developing Johnny's character in this movie, as he gets some of the best scenes. His chase sequence with the Silver Surfer at the start of the movie is probably the best action sequence to come out of any Fantastic Four movie. It is genuinely exciting from start to finish and looks absolutely fantastic. It also helps to kick off his arc when the Silver Surfer scrambles his DNA, making it so that he can switch powers with the others. Now this leads us to our obligatory Naked Sue Storm scene, but in the larger scope of things, it serves to make Johnny second guess himself and feel uncertain.
Starting to feel like a complete screw up.
This mirrors a similar feeling he has felt growing within him of not knowing his place in the world anymore, as he sees Reed and Sue about to get married, and Ben happy with Alicia, albeit even if he doesn't quite understand the logistics of how that would work.
Daddy needs to get his rocks off.
These feelings are exacerbated when he overhears Reed and Sue talking about quitting the team, leaving Johnny to try and figure out where that leaves him.
They want a nice, normal, boring-ass life. No more Fantastic Four.
There is a great scene where Johnny has a heart-to-heart with Ben, and the two talk about being there for each other when all is said and done.
What I meant was that it's just nice to have somebody.
Well, you got me, pal.
Where Johnny was previously so confident in himself that he felt invincible, not worrying about the future, in this movie, he is incredibly vulnerable, which results in his struggles throughout the story. His arc culminates when he absorbs the other members' powers simultaneously and lays it all on the line for the team.
We don't know what it could do to you.
Let's not make this about me.
Reed and Sue's relationship is also further explored as they prepare for their wedding. Reed is continuing to struggle with work-life balance, and Sue is having difficulty coming to terms with the idea that her life will be nothing but chaos. By the end of the film, they learn to embrace the chaos and accept whatever life will throw their way.
We can't run away from our responsibilities and the people we need to protect.
I think relatively speaking, the movie does a good job with the Fantastic Four themselves. Where it starts to struggle is with the film's antagonists and the events that take place as a result of their decisions. Andre Braugher is in the movie as Colonel Hager, a petty soldier that seems to be mentally stuck in high school.
You and your pack of freaks here. I'm the quarterback. You're on my team.
Let's just say he's no Captain Holt. He has a grudge against Reed and makes some majorly dumb decisions to seemingly spite him. He recruits the help of Victor, giving him a level of trust and access that he never affords Reed. After the Fantastic Four essentially capture the Silver Surfer single-handedly, Hager has them locked up, but gives Victor full freedom to roam the facilities, even going so far as to tell him where the surfboard is. It doesn't take a genius to know that Doom is up to no good.
It was pretty obvious what you're about to do.
Victor himself is poorly handled. After his beatdown in the previous movie's climax, Victor finds himself horribly burned once he sheds his metal mask. He tracks down the Silver Surfer, asking for a team-up, only to get blasted. But for some reason, this actually heals Victor rather than hurting him. Victor wants to learn how to surf, and thanks to Hager, he gets his chance. However, Victor seemingly has no plan beyond get surfboard. When he is told in no uncertain terms that Galactus is coming to destroy the planet and the only way to stop it is if he gives up the board, he is like, nah, I'm good. It's like he is unable to understand that he can't rule the world if it gets destroyed first. The whole end fight with Doom is predicated on him being too stupid or too stubborn to understand that keeping the board does nothing for him.
Only the surfer could stop the destroyer, but he needs his board!
What do you mean by that?
This brings us to the Silver Surfer and his television tummy, or Teletubby if you will. His motivations are shrouded in mystery for most of the film, but we eventually learn that he is the herald of Galactus and has helped to destroy countless worlds, all to protect his own home. After Sue talks to him and tries to protect him, he finds himself moved. He seemingly has godlike powers as he brings Sue back from the dead. A writing decision, I might add, that does nothing for the story and feels incredibly cheap. He then goes and effectively destroys Galactus, begging the question, if he could do this the whole time, why didn't he just do it from the start? I also know that people were upset about Galactus being a giant smoke monster, but as I had no previous knowledge of the character, the smoke monster didn't bother me too much. I suppose just give him a different name, instead of wasting a fan favorite character. Moving on to the ratings, the uniforms are identical to the 2005 movie, leaving it with the same rating of 3. The story is a bit tricky as it had some good moments like the Human Torch Silver Surfer chase, Johnny's character development, and some cool scenes of seeing the Fantastic Four in action. The bad parts mostly involve the antagonists of the story and how their motivations are pretty flimsy at times. I'm gonna give it a 3, which feels pretty generous in my opinion. I feel like much of this movie is weighed down by the villains. As I noted previously, Doom's entire subplot feels half-baked. The Silver Surfer's powers render much of the conflict seemingly moot, and Galactus is all but irrelevant as a character and serves more as a countdown clock. As a result, I have no choice but to give the villains a 1. I think they successfully carry over the great dynamic to this movie. If the characters weren't themselves so likable and entertaining, their interactions fun and meaningful, then the movie would fail spectacularly. I feel like the character writing allows this movie to be more enjoyable than it really should be. I'm giving the dynamic for this movie a 4 out of 5, leaving Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer with a cumulative score of 11 out of 20.
It's fantastic.
Say that again?
Fantastic Four 2015, or as it's better known, Fanforstic, is a failure on just about every level. It's hard to believe, but I actually remember being excited for this movie.
You serious?
I remember seeing the trailer with the characters hopping into the interdimensional travel vessel, and I thought it looked really cool.
But with every new discovery, there is risk.
However, the writing was on the wall as the movie's director slammed the finished product before the movie even premiered. I will say though, upon rewatching it for the first time since my initial viewing, I can't help but feel like there was some potential there, and that there are some cool ideas hidden throughout the movie. If anything though, these glimmers make the botched execution all the more frustrating. With that said, I actually did have a pretty good time watching Fanforstic this time around. Not because the movie was entertaining, but because it was kind of fun to try and parse through the film, trying to understand what went wrong and why they made the decisions they did. I actually really like all of the main actors involved to some degree or another, even if they didn't really work out in this movie. I think given a different script and different circumstances, they could do justice to these characters. By all accounts, the set of Fanforstic was a pretty toxic work environment, with Kate Mara saying in an interview that she had a horrible experience working on the film. It's also been claimed by sources that director Josh Trank's behavior was erratic on set, with rumors swirling that he almost came to blows with actor Miles Teller. It's hardly surprising that they were unable to get the best performances out of their cast of talented actors when the workplace environment was so hostile. The movie decides to start with Reed and Ben as kids. I think they did this to try and establish that Reed and Ben have been friends for a long time, hoping that knowing how long they have known each other would allow the audience to create a mental image of their friendship, rather than actually having to show us a meaningful relationship. It's also probably done because once the time jump hits and Reed goes away to smart people school, Ben kind of just disappears for a while. I think this is incredibly detrimental to the group dynamic, as when all of the characters are coming together and starting to develop a bond, Ben is entirely absent. The childhood scenes feel like a waste of time. Like, I don't really need to see Reed flub his 5th grade career day assignment.
Yeah, no one cares, okay?
This segment feels like it delays the actual start of the movie, padding the runtime but adding almost nothing of value. It's in this pre-time skip that also features one of the film's most egregious moments, when Ben's older brother, Chet Hanks, hits him repeatedly in the head and coins Ben's iconic catchphrase.
Hey, cowboy Chet tonight. Come here.
Hearing its clobbering time loses some of its appeal when you know that Ben got it from when he used to get beat up by his brother. The science fair portion is also really dumb. Firstly, Reed and Ben stick out like sore thumbs, as the two actors were pushing 30 at the start of filming. They're surrounded by literal children. The teacher is also the same teacher from when they were in the 5th grade. Is this guy some kind of Mr. Feeney? He disqualifies them for doing magic, and then Franklin and Sue Storm arrive, completely intrigued by Reed's invention. Do Franklin and Sue just attend every random school science fair in the hopes of finding some super genius working on the same thing that they're working on in their multi-million-dollar lab? It's not even like they were there specifically because of Reed and wanted to scout him out or something. They just kind of stumble upon him. The Storms recruit Reed, but Ben can't come to try and work on their secret project. This seems like a good time to take a look at a few of the characters. It might just be me, but I feel like Reed gives off big Zuck energy, and that's not a good thing. He is really smart, but also weirdly a bit of a jerk, too focused on his own aspirations to really try and help the people around him.
I was your only friend. Yet one friend.
Despite his drag race introduction, this version of Johnny feels like the anti-Johnny Storm. Instead of being the carefree, reckless, charming daredevil, he is weirdly timid and insecure. When they enter the alternate dimension, he is the one who says, "Nah, I'm good," when they decide to go exploring.
Nope. I'm good.
I get that this is supposed to be a younger iteration of the character, but to me his characterization just feels really off. Also, the only reason he is working on the project in the first place is because he wants his busted up car back, which feels like some pretty weak motivation. In a similar vein, Victor feels almost like an entirely different character. Instead of being fueled by ambition with an intense pursuit of power and perfection in all facets, he is a shut-in, antisocial, weirdo hacker.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
He goes on random anger-filled rants about the state of the world, which is what leads to him earning his famous moniker.
People running the earth are the same ones running it into the ground, so maybe it deserves what it's got coming to it.
Dr. Doom over here.
Say that again.
Ben, post-transformation, also feels out of character, as he is used as a tool by the military, and we see his on-screen kill count. It feels a little incongruous with the idea of him having a heart of gold, despite his rocky exterior. I don't have any major issues with Sue's characterization, my biggest complaint being that she comes across as a little bit bland. Even though you don't really care about any of the characters, and the pacing has felt really sluggish up until this point, the scene where they go to the other dimension is actually really cool. It almost feels like a different movie, as they venture forth into this unknown realm, exploring it and getting caught up in the idea of discovery. The panic and hysteria actually works for me as the new world turns volatile, and they see Victor get melted by the green goo. I really liked seeing them desperate to escape, but unable to, as everything is seemingly going wrong. Johnny getting lit on fire, and Ben being unable to close the door as countless rocks come pouring in, is actually pretty horrifying and an impactful way of showing how they got their powers. When Sue manages to get them back, only for them to be left a ruin in the aftermath of the incident, it is a pretty cool moment. The film seemingly builds on the horror of the Baxter incident, as we see Reed, Sue, and Johnny all victims of their new physiology. There are some strong body horror elements present, as lacking the ability to control their powers, Reed, Sue, and Johnny's abilities are equally as hellish as Ben's ends up being. With Johnny, for instance, the idea of being perpetually on fire and in constant agony is absolutely terrible to imagine. Ben's pleas for Reed, begging for his help, also adds to the atmosphere, with the characters feeling scared and confused.
What happened to me? Please, help me, Reed!
This feels like such an interesting way to explore the Fantastic Four. It is genuinely a cool idea. If the movie built on this more, I think it would have been the better for it. Unfortunately, there is a 1-year time jump, skipping all of the intrigue they just spent time building up. Instead of allowing the characters to struggle and grow as they try to overcome their new defects, we jump to when they have their powers pretty much under control. This feels like one of the film's biggest missed opportunities. The ending of the film sees Victor return as the main villain, taking over from Buster Scruggs. He is Doom only in name, as he looks like a weird Robo-Man with a bland design, devoid of any personality. This is the era in Hollywood of giant blue light beams shooting up into the sky, and that is on full display here. Before the team groups up and defeats Doom, with the would-be villain being vaporized. The film ends with what the movie has become best known for. In terms of ratings, these are easily the worst uniforms of any Fantastic Four movie. The base uniform is black and generic, with nothing to denote that they are a team or to give them a feeling of unity. For goodness sake, Ben doesn't even wear pants. He is rock-ass naked the entire time after his transformation. It is an easy one for the uniforms. Story is honestly where I think this movie has its most success. Even though everything that came before and everything that came afterwards is bad, there's that brief point in the middle of the movie where they go to the alternate dimension and the aftermath that follows that was actually really engaging. For those reasons, I'm giving the story a 2. For villains, the majority of the time that role is filled by Buster Scruggs, a boring corporate type. When Doom reappears, he does nothing to help as he is bland and uninteresting with an ugly design. It's a 1 for the villains. The team dynamic, the element that I think is the most important in order to make a successful Fantastic Four movie, is almost non-existent here.
We're a team now, and there's 4 of us, so we should come up with a name for it.
It feels like the only relationships the movie put any effort into were Reed and Ben and Reed and Sue. Reed and Ben almost works, but doesn't quite get there, and Reed and Sue feels more awkward than anything else. There's also this weird tension between Johnny and Sue throughout the film that is never resolved or even explored. It's just kind of there.
Look, don't get used to this. I'm just here to get my car back.
Right.
Not that they interact very much, but the fun banter that we have come to expect between Johnny and Ben is far meaner here.
How about 2 guys, a girl, and the thing that nobody wanted?
But you don't say that.
It's like, you can't say that. You barely even know this guy. In terms of an actual dynamic between the group as a whole, it literally does not exist, as the only time they are even all in the same room doesn't come until the final confrontation with Doom. Sue and Ben literally never even exchange a single word, which is kind of ironic considering their actors, Kate Mara and Jamie Bell, married each other after this. You would think there could have been some on-screen chemistry they could have tapped into. For team dynamic, it's a clear-cut 1. This gives Fan Four Stick a final total of 5 out of 20.
The main thing that sets the Fantastic Four apart from other superheroes or groups of superheroes is the fact that they are a family.
I find myself drawn to the Fantastic Four. They are known as Marvel's first family, and I think the idea of them loving each other and coming together to fight for one another is so compelling. Where human connection is such an interesting thing, their dynamic between each other helps them to stand out amongst countless other superheroes. As we have seen, their film history is mixed at best, but there are definitely moments that shine throughout. Based on the scores, and honestly just how I feel about the films, my ranking from worst to best for the current Fantastic Four films are Fan Four Stick in 4th, the doomed Fantastic Four 1994 in 3rd, Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer in 2nd, and Fantastic Four 2005 in 1st. With the Fantastic Four now entering the MCU, it will be interesting to see how First Steps stacks up against its predecessors. If you somehow made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. It really helps out the channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.